How's it going, everybody? It's your world champion here, and yes, we are back to talk about Bleach on the channel. It has been quite some time since we talked about Bleach. You know, earlier this year we had the one shot, which inevitably is leading towards a return of Bleach in the manga form. We also had the other arc review video that I did about the first arc of Bleach, and we're back now with the arc review series talking more Bleach, and we are entering probably one of the best arcs of the series from a lot of people, the Soul Society arc. And there's a lot to love about this arc. There might be some things to also not love about this arc, but we'll get to those when we get to them. And as always, check out the description down below. There's going to be a bunch of links to things like my Twitter, my Instagram, my Twitch channel, which you can watch me play video games and hang out with people. And there's also a link to a place called the Void Century Club. It is a forum where you can talk anything anime or manga related, whether it's One Piece, My Hero Academia, or Bleach. So go there, talk to some people, meet some new friends, and overall have a great time. Also be sure to like this video, let Johnny YouTube know, hey, I enjoy this kind of content. And if you enjoy this kind of content, and you enjoyed me, why not subscribe to the channel? And hit the bell icon, get notified every time a video goes up so you don't miss out on anything that I do, whether it's the arc reviews or any other the chapter reviews or some like one-off videos I end up doing. Don't miss out on any of those. With that out of the way, let's get into the Soul Society arc. So the Soul Society arc is a pretty big arc, and the manga and the anime have split it up into two different parts. So we're only going to talk about part 1 today. Now part 1 only takes place in the span of 3 days. Yeah, go figure. From the moment that they leave the real world to, you know, the cutoff point of part 1 of this arc. Yeah, only takes place within 3 days. So we're going to talk about it like each day at a time and kind of talk about some of the events that have transpired. Now, the thing about the part 1 is it's a lot of setup. It's very slow in the beginning, and that's actually one downside to Bleach that I have is a lot of the arcs kind of have a very slow start to them. But, you know, once it starts ramping up with action and twists and all that, you start getting something really good and something very intriguing, something that you can actually just kind of dive into. So last we left our teenage gang, they were entering the Soul Society, and they kind of entered with a bang because there's this thing called the Cleaner that is in the portal of Soul Society in the real world, so they kind of ran into that and had a big bang coming into the Soul Society. Now the Soul Society, they find out, is basically this like giant circle where like there's a bunch of these districts that kind of surround the what's called the Seireitei, which is where the Soul Reapers live. And that whole circle is broken up into 80 districts, and the whole thing is called the Rukia district. So, you know, the lowest district, which is 80, that's like the worst place to live. Highest district, like 1, best place to live. Nice little world building here that we're having within Bleach and seeing just what this area is all about. Now, a cool part too is that a lot of this area is based off of like old Japanese buildings. And now this mainly comes from this being a certain branch of the Soul Society, which I won't spoil yet until we talk about another series later on down the line. So that's why we have like this old traditional Japanese style with the Rukia district. Now we don't see any souls yet. They actually kind of hid from Ichigo and the gang because they just kind of crash landed and they didn't think that they were like good people or anything. So, you know, Ichigo and his friends are just kind of dumbfounded, like, oh, where is everybody? And they start heading right towards the Seireitei, and these walls come crashing down. And that's when we meet our first gatekeeper. That's right, I'm saying first gatekeeper. Jidanbo, who is this massive giant of a man with 2 giant axes that he's going to use to crush Ichigo. But the opposite happens, and Ichigo ends up destroying him. Now, I always feel bad for Jidanbo here. I don't know, like, if it's because he lost his axes, or if he's just, like, being emasculated here. I don't know. I always feel bad for Jidanbo. And maybe it's also the fact that he ends up losing an arm to his own captain. Yeah. So after the fight, Jidanbo just lifts the gate up to let Ichigo and his friends in, and Gin Ichimaru, makes his appearance. He is the captain of Squad 3, and yeah, he cuts off Jidanbo's arm, pushes Ichigo back, and that's it. They can't enter now because Gin Ichimaru is just right there. They have a captain who Yoruichi is just like, do not fight a captain. Do not engage a captain because you guys are not prepared for that. And we'll find out later on just how prepared they might be, or how ill-prepared they might be for a captain. So, yeah, how are they going to get into the Seireitei now? Well, maybe some souls can help them out. That's right, now the souls start kind of coming out and seeing Ichigo and his friends because they saw how they treated Jidanbo. You know, because Orihime starts healing Jidanbo from his injuries, and she's, you know, very nice to everybody, and so is like Ichigo and Chad and all that. And speaking of Chad, he meets up with Parakeet Boy. That's right, Yuichi Shibata is here, and they have a nice little talk, and we get some more world building too, where, you know, even if you die in the real world, there's no guarantee that you're going to meet up with your family that is waiting for you there. So you see a lot of like makeshift families. So like a lot of kids end up either being orphans in like the worst parts of the Rukon district, or they end up like making these families with like these older people and all that. So really nice little bit of world building there, and everyone's just trying to come up with a plan. And Yoruichi's talking to the elder of this village, I'm gonna call it, or this district or whatever, and puts down the name Kukaku Shiba, and that's how they're gonna enter the Soul Society. Before we get to the second day, still on the night of the first day, we meet Ganju. Now this guy comes in riding a boar, saying he's the self-proclaimed #1 Soul Reaper hater, and self-proclaimed this, self-proclaimed that. Like, this guy is kind of a punk. But I do love Ganju, and I actually love where his character goes, mainly in this arc. We don't see too much of Ganju after this, but in this arc, he has a very good story. So he runs away because some alarm goes off. Next morning, Ichigo's waiting to meet up with him and kick his butt, but that doesn't end up happening because they need to go see Kukaku Shiba, and Kukaku Shiba ends up being a woman. Yes, a very... yeah, she's alright. She's okay. She's cool. She's neat. But not only that, but she is the older sister of Ganju. So Ganju is going to help everybody, apparently. And we have like a mini training montage with everyone like holding these orbs and trying to make this sphere, because it turns out how they're going to get into the Seireitei is they are going to basically launch themselves in a cannon. They need to like make like a spiritual cannon with this orb. And so they kind of go through some training to kind of focus their spiritual pressure and all that, so that way they can rightfully get in. And so they do that, they spend the night doing that, and then the next morning they launch the Flower Crane Cannon, and Ganju joins the team, and they end up getting into the Seireitei. And meanwhile, during all of this, the captains are having a little meeting about Gin Ichimaru letting these, what they call Ryoka, who are these... basically they're intruders. You have some of the captains kind of fighting Gin Ichimaru about what he did, and we have some captains that are just like, I don't care, why am I here? During that meeting is when Ichigo's group crash into the Seireitei. And not only did they crash, but the sphere ends up like destroying itself and launching them into 4 different directions. So we have like Chad by himself, and then Uryu and Orihime are together. Then Yoruichi's by himself. And then Ganju and Ichigo are paired up together. They enter and everything's fine. And we get our first confrontation of Ichigo and Ganju versus Ikkaku, Madarame, and Yumichika something. And everyone else pretty much fights fodder here. I mean, Uryu fights this one guy, I think he was like 4th seat of a company. Ended up being Jidanbo's brother. I don't know, he made quick work of him, and Chad also fought like a 3rd seat later on, but really fight is more like in quotations. They just kind of beat them down very easily. But Ichigo and Ganju are facing off against the 3rd and 5th seat of the 11th squad, which is the toughest squad, the squad that loves to fight. they're basically like the main fodder that our group is fighting, especially on this first day of being in the Seireitei. But yeah, this is actually a cool fight. You know, we get to see some of what Ganju can do, and the thing that these fights do is just kind of introduce us to the characters of Ikkaku and Yumichika, because Yumichika, he is somebody who puts beauty above everything, puts looks above everything, and really just doesn't care about other people. He cares about some people that are around him, but like Ikkaku, for example. But Yumichika, he's basically just spoiled and selfish. Whereas Ikkaku, he is a hardened warrior. He has, you know, Zanbakuto, he has, you know, his Shikai and all that, which we'll learn about Shikai and the other stage in the next part. But he fights Ichigo, and it's actually a pretty good fight. Like, it's a good, like, bar to show how far Ichigo's gone, because we see a little bit of the training he had with Urahara, where, like, he was learning to be more and more powerful and just basically gaining experience. He didn't really learn how to fight, he was just learning experience through Urahara, and we get that through Ikkaku's fight. Just, you know, him not really strategizing, but just like being able to like see attacks and being able to dodge attacks and parry attacks and things like that. And he doesn't really kill Ikkaku because, again, he needs information from him. And before he just leaves, Ikkaku's just like, wait, out of your group, who's the strongest? And of course, Ichigo's just like, well, it'd probably be me. And we get the warning of the century to watch out for the captain of Squad 11, Zaraki Kenpachi. And don't worry, we will talk about Zaraki later on in this video. Oh, trust me, we will. But yeah, most of that first day, I mean, the other groups, again, they're just fighting fodder. While Ichigo and Ganju end up meeting up again, they also meet another person called Hanataro. And this is where, again, we start getting more of that world building from Kuba, where we're starting to see how different squads kind of interact with each other. So Hanataro is from the 4th squad, which is basically the squad that like heals everybody or does like menial tasks and all that. And he's being picked on by the 11th squad. Like, Ichigo and Ganju try to use him as a hostage, and the 11th squad members are just like, yeah, go kill him. I'm like, just kill him, dude. We don't care about him. Like, just murder him. We don't care. Dude, go do it. You're doing us a favor. And so they just all three run away, and yeah, Hanataro joins the team, and he ends up becoming the white mage that we've always needed. And not only that, but he knows a shortcut to the tower. So he knows his way through the sewer systems and all that, and he's able to just kind of help everybody out with that. And, you know, so he takes Ichigo and Ganju through the sewers. Now, this is where we kind of cut away to, like, the lieutenants. So, like, people that are on Renji's level. We start meeting some of the lieutenants through all this. And they hear that Ichigo is heading towards the tower. And Renji knows it's Ichigo because the reports are saying that it's some orange-haired guy with a long Zanpakuto, like, as big as his body. And so Renji ends up putting his badge down and going and meeting up with Ichigo. And they has a fight. And let me just tell you this was a lot better than I remembered. Like, this, because, okay, how do I properly explain this? So, Ichigo and Renji, because we find out Renji's past through all this, how he had ties to Rukia, and how he regrets letting her go to be with the Kuchiki family, and how he struggles every single day to try to be better and to try to hopefully one day be stronger than Byakuya and to surpass him, to show him that, you know, even if I am from the Rukon district, I can be something great. I can be better than you. And through that, like, he still has a sense of duty, a sense of justice. So that's why, like, when we got that introduction of Renji, you know, he's so cocky and hot-headed and all that, you know, because he's still Renji at heart, but he's still somebody that he needs to properly show that he is in power. But on the inside, he's fighting himself because he wishes he could be doing what Ichigo's doing. So really, in a way, this Ichigo versus Renji fight is actually kind of like a Renji versus Renji fight. So Ichigo is like representing Renji's conscience, saying, hey, you know what you need to do. You need to save Rukia because you know this is all wrong. Like, her executions keep getting pushed forward and forward, and the fact that she's getting executed because of all this, like, I haven't even touched on the fact that Aizen, one of the captains, starts talking to Renji and just like, hey, do you really think Rukia, who is not a captain or a lieutenant or anything, should she actually be getting the death sentence? And not only that, but such a harsh sentence that is only for like captain level people that have broken the law. Like, he puts that seed of doubt into Renji. And of course, Renji, I mean, he already wasn't behind all this to begin with. You know, he was acting cocky, but he really does care about Rukia. So in this way, this Ichigo versus Renji fight, again, it's more like Renji versus Renji, because he's, again, just kind of coming to terms with what he needs to do and the power that he has in order to do it. Now, this fight also shows one big thing that Ichigo has in all of his fights, and that's something called resolve. We're going to see this a lot in a lot of Ichigo fights, but it's this thing where, like, he has this excess power that he can tap into because he just has the resolve to do all this. And we get a nice lesson from Urahara again about, you know, learning to dodge, learning to kill, you know, attack, block, you know, protect, all that stuff. Like, it's really cool. It's basically, you know, right now Ichigo, like, this is a flashback to back in the training. So Urahara is just like, okay, Ichigo, right now you're dodging because you don't want to die. You're attacking, but you're not wanting to kill. And you're afraid somebody that you're trying to protect is going to die. And he's just like, you can't be like that, you know? If you're gonna dodge, don't let them hit them. If you want to protect, don't let them die. And when you attack, you kill. And that's where the end shot happens, and, you know, again, we get the Renji backstory, and we get this plea from Renji, as he's like holding Ichigo by the scruff. He's just like, can you please save Rukia? And then he passes out, Ichigo passes out, and they both end up getting healed by their respective teams. So there was some aftermath to Ichigo and Renji's fights, mainly from the Soul Society aspect of things. So the head captain, Yamamoto, he ends up putting a wartime order for all Soul Reapers, including lieutenants and captains, to carry their Zanpakuto on them, and they have full wartime orders to use them, release them, and all that stuff. And there's also a lot of distrust going on within the captains, you know. Like their first meeting, for example, there was Gin and Aizen that were kind of butting heads, and they had like a passing comment to each other. And Captain Hitsugaya of 10th Squad, he overheard this, and so now he has some suspicions. So there's a lot of just like drama and threads going around. And there's one lieutenant who I hate her so much. I hate her so much. So there's one lieutenant named Momo. She's the worst. I'm sorry, she's the worst. I hate her. I hate her. Every time she's on screen, I hate her. But I'll get into that at another time. I don't like her. But anyways, she checks up on Renji, and because Byakuya wants Renji to just throw away like the rest of the trash and to just go away. But that ain't gonna happen because Aizen he vouches for Renji, and so do some of the other captains as well. They know what Renji's all about. But Momo hears this, and like, you know, the captains are just like sneaking around and all that. But Hitsugaya just kind of tells Momo, hey, be careful of Gin in 3rd Squad, especially if Aizen goes out alone. And we don't know what that really means quite yet until later on, but we kind of follow Momo in this aspect now. So Momo, she's having doubts about everything. She's so confused about everything. I hate her guts. But she ends up going to see Captain Aizen. He's just like, you know, you seem worried, you know, just rest here for a bit. And he's like writing this letter and all that, and he ends up leaving. Next morning, Momo's just like, oh crap, I overslept. I gotta run, gotta go. And as she's running, she sees that Aizen is dead on a wall, and she just flips out. So some other Soul Reapers come by, some other lieutenants, like the lieutenant from Squad 3, Kira comes in. In waltzes Gin Ichimaru, and Momo just flips out. She releases her Zanbakuto, tries to attack Gin with it, and Kira like blocks it because of course he's loyal to his captain and all that, and luckily Hitsugaya shows up and just stops them before Gin kills Momo. So Momo gets arrested, Kira gets arrested, and Hitsugaya, he's just like, hey, Gin, were you about to kill Momo? Because I'm going to tell you one thing, if you lay a finger on her, you're dead. You are dead, sir. This is cool, because, again, we're a lot of threads just being thrown out, because we have this whole mystery of, who killed Aizen, because nobody in Ichigo's group, A, are gonna do something like that, and B, aren't really that strong to do that yet. Like, it's it's a mystery, and we'll find out that mystery in part 2 of the Soul Society arc reviews. But yeah, so here we are on the last day that is taking part here. Ichigo, he gets healed by Hanataro, and one interesting thing too, Ichigo, he had this mask on him when Hanataro healed him. Like, it blocked a massive attack from Renji, but it was just on Ichigo. So, okay, whatever. But Ichigo and that little group climb these massive stairs, and as soon as they get up there, they are met with the most powerful spiritual pressure they have ever felt. And like, I love this scene too, because you just see Zaraki just kind of form from smoke and just kind of go behind Ichigo and be like, is it you? Are you the one I'm looking for? And like, there's such good imagery of like the feeling of dread and the feeling of just being killed by somebody's presence. It's so good. But before we get into this Kenpachi stuff, let's check in with Chad, see how he's doing. Not too good, because he ran into my favorite captain, Captain Kiraku of Squad 8. This isn't really a fight. This is just kind of a one-sided beatdown. But Chad, he does something. And we actually get to see some of Chad's backstory. And honestly, like, being older now, I actually really like this. He grew up with his grandfather in Mexico, and he was a big guy, always got in fights and all that, and his grandfather told him, look, you're a big kid. Don't use your fists to attack or hurt people. Instead, use that to protect somebody. And so when Chad and Ichigo met up, they decided, they went through some things, and of course, we get the best line of the series where Ichigo calls 5 ambulances for 5 different guys because he's gonna beat their asses. Chad and Ichigo make a little bond there, and they have a vow with each other that, okay, whatever you want to protect, Chad, I'll protect with my life, and whatever I have, you can protect it with yours. And that's basically why Chad is here in the Soul Society, because Kiraku was questioning him, being like, look, Rukia was only in the living world for only 2 months. That's not enough time for you to, like, get this deep bond with somebody. Even though, Ichigo has a deep bond, but that's because he was Soul Reaper and all that. But why was Chad there? And we find that out, and honestly, it's very admirable of him to be this kind of person, and maybe chivalrous is also the word, too, to use here. But yeah, so Chad gets beat down by Kiraku very, very easily, and Ichigo notices this because, in the meantime, he's fighting Kenpachi. And so now we're going to go back into this Kenpachi fight. This Kenpachi fight. Oh, it's so good. So, when I was watching the episodes of this, I actually watched them with my friend Trevor. And we were watching them, and man, just, again, the imagery they use, especially in the manga too, like how everything's sketched out and all that, like, it just looks so good. And just the sheer moment, just the beginning of this fight, where Zaraki just tells Ichigo, go ahead, hit me right now. Use all the power you have. You can go for my throat, my chest. I'll let you get the first blow. Go ahead. Hit me right now. And Ichigo goes in, and he hits Zaraki. But it's like, how do I explain this? It's basically like this. Like, it doesn't do anything. It just kind of dully hits him. But the attack kind of hits Ichigo as well. So it kind of backfires on him. So, like, Ichigo's standing there holding his sword, and, like, it's just kind of lightly being placed on Kenpachi, while Ichigo's hands are just, like, bloody and just dripping blood. And we see the lieutenant of Squad 11, Yachiru, who's there with Kenpachi, and just a mysterious entity that one day we might get into. She's just looking on all disappointed, like, And Kenpachi's a little disappointed too, like, I expected more for somebody who defeated Ikaku and Renji. Well, alright, let's do this. And they has kind of a chicken shit fight at first. Like, Ichigo kind of starts running away and all that. And after, he kind of senses Chad be defeated, he gets a little more of a boost. He's just like, okay, time to do this. And he goes on the attack. He's able to cut Kenpachi a little bit, but then he kind of gets cocky because he's just like, okay, go ahead, release your sword. Zaraki's like, it's already released. I'm already at my strongest. You are fighting me at one of my strongest points. And he just goes like, wait, what? Then he starts getting a little cocky. He's just like, oh, I can beat you then, because you're not going to get any stronger than this. And Zaraki just kind of pokes him with his sword, cuts the sword in half, and that's about it. Yeah, Ichigo got freaking cocky here, because, and I like the line that Zaraki says, he's just like, oh, you thought you had a chance? Oh, no, you did not, boy. You're just fodder to me. You're just nothing. And it's such a good moment because it shows the hubris of Ichigo, and it leads into this next part where he goes into his little inside world with Zangetsu, and we get to meet White for the first time. And he has Zangetsu now, and he's using it in all these different ways that Ichigo never even thought about using Zangetsu. Like, and you're like, wait a minute, I never even thought about using him like this. Like, how did he do this? How is he doing this? Ichigo soon realizes that, oh, I'm just fighting on my own. Just because I know your name doesn't mean, like, we're actually fighting together. And it's a really cool moment here because now Ichigo can start tapping into his Zanpakuto's true power and use that power in order to fight tougher beings, which is what he's about to do. So he ends up getting up, and Zangetsu's like healing his wound as he's doing this, and Ichigo goes in for the attack on Zaraki, and they have the best clashes here ever. Like, he just slashes Kenpachi here, there, everywhere, and then Kenpachi just takes off his eye patch, and we get the reveal that he's been holding in his true power. It is so great that he had to have the team of researchers and developers of Squad 12 create this eye patch to hold back his own power so he can just have more fun fighting. Oh, it's so good because he just slices the building and it just goes down, and oh, it's so good. Oh, it gets me hyped every time. And then him and Ichigo have one final clash. They tie. That's the end of that fight. So Ichigo gets a big rub here. I mean, he didn't really defeat a captain because he also got defeated. They ended in a tie, but to the Soul Society, Kenpachi just got destroyed. How do you come back from that? How do you? You don't. And luckily for Yoruichi was there to help Ichigo and heal him and all that, but we'll get to Yoruichi here in just a second. Because now, what happened to Ganju and Hinataro? Well, they kind of left Ichigo to fight Kenpachi, and they went to go save Rukia. Now, I didn't mention this before, but Ganju, his whole thing is that he hates Soul Reapers. And the reason he hates Soul Reapers is because his brother was killed by one. And that killer, like, brought the body to his house, and even though his brother was so thankful for the Soul Reaper, Ganju couldn't forgive them for what they did. But the reason I say that is because now that they're here with Rukia, they save her. And Ganju's just like, oh, can't wait to see who this Rukia person is that we've been trying to save this whole time. And lo and behold, the person he sees is the same person who killed his brother. Dun, dun, dun! How? How can Ganju save the person that killed his own brother? I tell you how. He kind of argues it. And while he's arguing, guess whose brother starts stepping in? Good old Byakuya Kuchiki. Yep, he's coming in to just defeat whoever's there at the tower, and Nacho's just like, look, just get Rukia out of here. I'll hold back Byakuya as best as I can. I mean, Ganju has better manners than that. He's a man of his word and a big manly man, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna let you do that. I'm gonna do that. So Ganju steps up to Byakuya, and he gets obliterated. Byakuya finds out he's from the Shiba clan, which Shiba clan actually used to be, again, more world building. Shiba clan used to be like some high up clan of the Soul Society. And Byakuya's just like, alright, I'm gonna give you the honor then. And he releases his Zanpakuto, destroys Ganju, and that's pretty much the end of Ganju. Not dead, but like he might as well be dead. But before Byakuya can do any more damage, he gets stopped by the captain of Squad 13, Ukitake, who's just like, what the hell's going on? Why are you releasing your Zanpakuto? Like, I know they're Ryoka, but you shouldn't be doing this. And that's when he finds out about the wartime thing, because Ukitake's shtick is he's always sick. So that's just that thing. Now, meanwhile, Ichigo's getting healed by Yoruichi, and we find out that Yoruichi is a very hot female. Yeah, because Yoruichi just transforms back into her human form, and she's buff, naked. Anyways, so yeah, Yoruichi is a woman, and she helped Ichigo survive, basically. And Ichigo feels the presence of Byakuya. So he jumps up there with a little tool that Yoruichi used. And we almost get to find out what Yoruichi actually is, but we'll find that out at a later date. And that's when we get Ichigo going up right to the tower, meeting up with Rukia, and they have their first meeting in, like a month since she left? I think it's been like a month or like 10 days or something. Pretty much how you would think it would go. He basically tells her to shut up and be rescued, and she's just like, I told you not to come. Go away. I tried to save you. Go. Get out of here. And Ichigo and Byakuya have a little clash. Ichigo gets to show Byakuya just how much he's improved. And improve he did. He was able to stop the same attack that Byakuya used on him in the real world. And he asks him to release his Zanpakuto, but before he does that, Yoruichi comes in and stops Byakuya. And guess what? That's actually technically where this part ends. Actually, no. I'm going to talk a little bit about the thing after this. So, Yoruichi, she stabs Ichigo, like poisons him a little bit, and it's just like, okay, we're getting out of here because you are not ready to actually fight Byakuya. And she actually ends up being faster than Byakuya and gets out of the way. And she's just like, 3 days. 3 days, this boy will be strong enough to defeat you. Don't give chase. Just wait those 3 days. And then she disappears. And in the meantime, they put Rukia back in the cell, and that's pretty much it. So overall, I mean, yeah, that was pretty much the arc. So if I gave it a grade, I would give it a solid B+. Now, that might sound a little on the low end, but it's mainly because of this beginning part. This arc really takes not really a long time, but it does take a while to kind of start getting the gears rolling. Like, the whole beginning part with, like, Jidambo and going to Kakaku, and even up to, like, the Ikaku fight is kind of slow, and it drags a little bit. And, of course, the other characters only fighting fodder kind of sucks, but we get to see more of them, especially Uryu here in the next arc. He gets to do so much more and gets to be much more of his own person. But honestly, like a B+, I think in this grand scheme of Bleach, it's really not that bad, especially because, you know, again, a lot of this is set up, and a lot of this is going to come to head here in the second part of the arc. And I can already say that that is going to be a very hyped video and a very hyped time to read and watch Bleach. But, you know, that's all I got to say about this first part of the Soul Society arc. What do you guys think of this arc? You know, did you really like it? Did you really not like it? Let me know down in the comments below all your thoughts and feelings on Bleach, the entry of Soul Society. Be sure to also like the video. Again, let's Johnny YouTube know that, hey, I like this content. Subscribe to the channel as well so you don't miss any of my other content, and so you don't miss it, hit the bell icon so you get notified. And, you know, again, links in the description below. Can't wait to talk about the next arc and to finish off the Soul Society strong, because we are going to meet my favorite villain of all time next arc. So as always, people, I've been your world champion. Catch you guys in the next video. See ya. I don't need you. Better things to come.